So our chimpanzee group here is made up of 17 chimps, and they have 2 areas that they can be in during the day. This is kind of their main exhibit area. It goes all the way down over there. And then there is a second location too. So if you look up kind of through those trees back there, that's their penthouse area. And that's another area they can be in during the day. So if you're walking around the zoo, I would definitely go check out our chimps up there as well. But if you were here a few minutes ago, I asked you to kind of predict, what our chimpanzees are going to be eating and how our keepers are going to be giving them their lunch. So as you can see, our keepers are up on top of this wall over here, straight in front of us. And they feed our chimpanzees this way for a number of reasons. So the first reason is that we use protected contact here at the zoo. So with most of our animals, our keepers are not in the same space with them, and that's a safety thing. Especially with chimpanzees, they have a very complex social structure and can be aggressive if they think that, a rule has been broken. So for their safety and for our keepers' safety, they're not in the same area. And back, in the chimpanzee bedrooms, there's like a mesh between our keepers and our chimps, so they're able to work with them, do some training, but there's still that barrier. Another reason is you may notice our keepers are not, just throwing handfuls of food out. They are able to see all of our chimpanzees from up there, and they feed certain foods to certain chimps. So I mentioned their social structure is very complex. They have a hierarchy system. So up at the very top is usually a male, it's the alpha male. In our group, his name is Glenn. And below him falls everyone else. And it's not just a straight line. We have some stereotypical chimp behavior happening in front of us. A good teaching moment maybe for small children. But like I was saying, so their hierarchy is not like a straight line. So it's kind of like a web. So it's very complex. And how chimpanzees get that ranking, they inherit it from their mother. So kind of however their mom was ranked in that is how they are ranked as well. So our keepers are targeting specific chimpanzees with that food because they want to be respectful of that hierarchy. If they threw food to a chimpanzee who's low ranking, that's going to cause a lot of issues for those chimpanzees who are higher up, who are supposed to be getting that food first. So another good example right here is a begging behavior. And our chimpanzees do that. And that is an example, the raising of the hand, trying to get the keeper's attention. Sometimes they make like a noise, they clap, but they will beg food from each other as well. So if a chimp has some food that another chimp wants, they might follow behind them, making some noise, reaching their hand out. Some of our youngsters haven't quite learned their table manners and actually will reach into an older chimp's mouth to try to pull food right out of it. So as they get older, they learn that that's not okay. But when they're little, sometimes they are given more freedom to do things than they would as they get older. So another question I asked you to think about, if you were here before our chat started, is what we feed our chimpanzees. So chimpanzees are omnivores, which means they nom on really anything they want. So in the wild, they sometimes will eat bugs and very rarely will hunt species of monkeys. But here, they get lots of vegetables, they get some fruit, and they get little biscuits that have the protein that they need in them. And I have an example of kind of what that looks like. If anyone wants to come up now or after the talk, I'll be here, you can come look at them. But they get these little biscuits for the protein they need. And as you watch our keepers throw food down, you'll see if we can see what they're throwing down. Usually they get lots of leafy greens, so lettuce and branches. They also get sometimes oranges or apples or pears, that kind of fruit. But they do get less fruit than vegetables because fruit is higher in sugar. So they have to regulate how much sugar that the chimpanzees get. And one of our chimpanzees who happens to be our oldest chimpanzee. Her name is Nan. She is an insulin-dependent diabetic. So they really have to monitor her and make sure that her sugar intake is what it should be. And something that's really cool about her is she has actually been trained to present her arm for testing her blood sugar or even insulin injections. So I think that's something that's really cool, that training and that bond with their keepers is so strong that this, wild animal willingly presents her arm for a shot, basically. So as you can see right now, I think most of the time they get a lot of tomatoes. They sometimes get sweet potatoes, green onions, beets, all kinds of stuff. You also may see things that look like little cardboard tubes or bags, and that's can be a treat or food, but it's also an enrichment item. So enrichment is really anything that enhances or enriches our animals' lives that gets put in their exhibit. So, my microphone just died. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're back in business. Though there's not much battery life in these either. But, what was I saying? We was talking about food? So the food that they get, lots of vegetables. Enrichment, oh, thank you very much. So the enrichment, yeah, really anything that enriches the lives of the chimps. So these can be things that they have to figure out how to get the treats out of. So little bags they may have to rip open. Died again. All right, cardboard tubes, things like that. One of them has a little cup over here, really anything that kind of stimulates our chimpanzees' minds. And we give enrichment to all of our animals at the zoo. So as you're walking around and you're looking at our different exhibits, pay attention to the enrichment that might be with our other animals as well. So I talked a little bit about their social structure, and something that's really important for this structure is making allies, having those friends. Chimpanzees get a bad rap for being really aggressive and scary because when they have fights, they're loud, they're dramatic, they bang on things, they scream, they hit. And so it seems like chimpanzees are really scary animals. But most of the time, this is kind of what they do. They're very chill, their interactions are positive, that kind of a thing. So, has anyone ever seen chimpanzees, other apes or monkeys? It looks like they're picking bugs off someone else. Yeah. So this is a behavior that they do to bond with each other. It's like a social thing. So that if there ever is a fight, they have that backup, those friends they can call on. They're like, hey, remember when I was, playing with your hair earlier? Help me in this fight, that kind of a thing. So for that hierarchy, it's really important for those higher up chimps to have those other chimps to kind of back them up in that environment. Another cool thing about chimpanzees, you see one of our youngsters up in this tree right in front of us. They are very excellent climbers. So just like our hands we have the opposable thumb to grab things, chimpanzees have that as well. But they also have an opposable toe on their feet. So it's kind of like another hand, and that's something that makes them very excellent at climbing. As you can see, they can climb up these trees no problem, even all the way up these palm trees sometimes.
something else that kind of goes along with that begging behavior I talked a little bit about is sometimes our chimpanzees will just share food with each other. Sometimes they share with the young without, the youngsters pulling the food right out of their mouth. And chimpanzees are very good at alloparenting, which is just, it's not only mom taking care of the baby. So everyone kind of helps out. Everyone becomes like an aunt or an uncle, helps take care of those babies, which is good for their socialization as well. Something that about this group that I think is pretty cool and kind of funny is we have 5 youngsters who are ages 6 and under. And the 2 youngest are 2 little boys that are 4 and 3 right now. And there are 3 girls who are just a couple years older than them. And the girls love playing babysitter to the boys. So even though they're not that much older, they will carry the boys around on their back. They, take care of them. They'll sometimes even fight with each other at who gets to be the babysitter. It's just something that I think is kind of cute. It's kind of funny. But that's helping them, practice for if they have their own babies or just how the group functions. It's very social. They take care of each other all the time, which is great. And something else that's kind of fun is maybe you've seen before, or maybe you'll see later because they're very calm right now, but play is also really important for these animals, and especially with our youngsters. They get very rambunctious. They're usually the ones you see running around. Sometimes they, will run up and pinch someone and run away. But the adults will play with them too sometimes, which I think is really cute. It encourages that play behavior, helps the chimps learn, what's okay play behavior and if it goes too far. So it's really important for them to be able to do that with the adults.
Sorry. How many are there total? 17. It looks like a lot.
It's a lot.
Even more than I thought.
Yeah. Sometimes our youngsters like to interact with you guys. Sometimes they show off. But sometimes if you're ever over like by our windows over here, if the youngsters come running over and bang on the glass, definitely react. Act like you're scared because they love it. They get a kick out of it. It's fun for us too. Yeah. So usually what happens during this lunchtime is the chimpanzees will they'll grab the food they want, and they usually head on over to the right-hand side of their exhibit, kind of like they're demonstrating now. And the food that was not as desirable gets left behind. So then that kind of acts as a buffet later in the day if they get hungry again. So they did a very good job of just demonstrating, but enough that it supplements how much they're supposed to be getting. I don't think.
Does it smell weird?
This smells like.
Thank you.